Well, shalom and blessings. We greet each and every one of you in the mighty name of Yeshua and say welcome to Voice of Messiah Ministries. Today I'm here in sunny California, and I just want to say happy Purim to all of you who are viewing. Today we want to talk about Purim. We want to talk about it being the season of divine reversals. So with saying that, I want to begin by reading the 9th chapter of the book of Esther. This is going to be a little bit of a lengthy chapter, so I'm going to ask you to just hang with me here for a while so we can read through this, because there's some things in here that are very significant, very powerful. We see the providence of the Most High. We see the preservation of our people, the people of the Most High Yehudim, and we also see the preservation of the prophetic promise of Messiah coming into the world when we understand the providence of the Most High preserving his people from annihilation. So let's read right here in the 9th chapter of Esther. I'm going to begin at the first verse. It begins with saying, "Now in the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, on the 13th day, when the king commanded an edict were about to be executed, on the very day when the enemies of the Jews, the Yehudim, hoped to gain power over them, but which had been changed to a day when the Jews would gain power over their foes. The Jews gathered in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to lay hands on those who had sought their ruin, and no one could withstand them, because the fear of them had fallen upon all peoples. All the officials of the provinces, the satraps and the governors and the royal officials were supporting the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai had fallen upon them. For Mordecai was powerful in the king's house, and his fame spread throughout all the provinces as the man Mordecai grew more and more powerful. So the Jews struck down all their enemies with the sword, slaughtering and destroying them, and did as they pleased to those who hated them. In the citadel of Susa, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 people. They killed Parshadantha, Dalphon, Aspatha, Paratha, Adalia, Aridatha, Parmashta, Arisai, Aradai, Vaizatha, the 10 sons of Haman, son of Hamadatha, the enemy of the Jews. But they did not touch the plunder. That very day, the number of those killed in the citadel of Susa was reported to the king. The king said to Queen Esther, 'In the citadel of Susa, the Jews have killed 500 people, and also the sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is your petition? And it shall be granted you. And what is your request? It shall be fulfilled.' Esther said, 'If it pleases the king, let the Jews who are in Susa be allowed tomorrow also to do according to this day's edict. And let the 10 sons of Haman be hanged on the gallows.' So the king commanded this to be done. A decree was issued in Susa, and the 10 sons of Haman were hanged. The Jews who were in Susa gathered also on the 14th day of the month of Adar, and they killed 300 persons in Susa, but they did not touch the plunder. Now the other Jews who were in the king's provinces also gathered to defend their lives and gain relief from their enemies, and killed 75,000 of those who hated them, but they laid no hand on the plunder. This was on the 13th day of the month of Adar. And on the 14th day, they rested and made that day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews who were in Susa gathered on the 13th day and on the 14th and rested on the 15th day, making that a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore, the Jews of the villages who live in the open towns hold the 14th day of the month of Adar as a day of gladness and feasting, a holiday on which they send gifts of food to one another. Verse 20. Mordecai recorded these things and sent letters to all the Jews who were in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far, enjoining them that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and also the 15th day of the same month, year by year, as the days on which the Jews gain relief from their enemies, and as the month that had been turned for them from sorrow into gladness, and from mourning into a holiday, that they should make them days of feasting and gladness, days for sending gifts of food to one another and presents to the poor. So the Jews adopted as a custom what they had begun to do as Mordecai had written them. We see this as a season of divine reversals. Verse 24. Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them and had cast pur, that is, the lot. That's where we get the word Purim from. Pur means lot. Purim means lots. There were lots cast to determine a date for the annihilation of the Yehudim, or the Jews. This is what initially Purim was for, but the Most High turned it around. I'm going to keep reading verse 25. But when Esther came before the king, he gave orders in writing that the wicked plot that he had devised against the Jews should come upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on gallows. Therefore, these days are called Purim, from the word pur. Thus, because of all that was written in this letter, and of what they had faced in this matter, and of what had happened to them, the Jews established and accepted as a custom for them and their descendants, that's us, and all who joined them, that without fail they would continue to observe these 2 days every year, as it is written, and at the time appointed. These days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, in every family, province, and city. And these days of Purim should never fail or fall, into disuse among the Jews, or the Yehudim, nor should the commemoration of these days cease among their descendants. Verse 29, Queen Esther, daughter of Avihail, along with the Jew Mordecai, gave full written authority confirming this second letter about Purim. Letters were sent wishing peace and security to all the Jews, to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, and giving orders that these days of Purim should be observed at their appointed seasons, as the Jew Mordecai and Queen Esther enjoined on the Jews, just as they had laid down for themselves and for their descendants regulations concerning their fasts and their lamentations. The command of Queen Esther fixed these practices of Purim, and it was recorded in writing. Now, this chapter gives us the background about Purim. All of this occurred during the time of the Persian Empire, right before the Greek Empire came upon the scene. This was not long after the ancient fathers were released from Babylonian captivity and went back to the land of Israel and began the rebuilding of the temple and the reorganizing of the faith of Israel. But there were many of the Yehudim, the Jews that came out of the Babylonian captivity that stayed in Babylon and that stayed in the provinces of that at that time was the kingdom of Persia, or the Persian Empire. And this Haman decided that he wanted to eliminate all of the Jews because he found them to be a problem. Well, if you don't know anything about Haman, Haman was a descendant of the Agagite king that lived during the time of King Saul. The Most High said that there was a group of people called the Amalekites that were to be destroyed. King Saul never destroyed the Amalekites. He only killed some of them and left the rest of them, and then he had took the sheep. But he had left descendants, and the descendants of the Amalekites are the Agagite people. Well, Haman was one of these descendants, and he hated the Jews, and he knew about the destruction of many of his descendants, and he decided he wanted to have the Jews wiped out. But what he had planned for the destruction of the people of Yehuda, the Most High reversed it and turned it around for good. Now, there's some things in here that we see that are so very important. Number one, that I find that's of great importance that we need to talk about is the significance that preserves our Messiah coming into the world. Why do you say that, Overseer Mo? Because the prophets prophesied that the Messiah would come from the line of the tribe of Yehuda. And this particular line was the only one that was represented at this time within the Persian Empire. Now, the scriptures could have said that Messiah could have came out of one of the other tribes of the Israelites, but he didn't. In Genesis 49:10, when Yaakov, our father, Jacob was blessing his sons, he laid his hands on Yehuda or Judah, and he said that the scepter would not depart from Yehuda, nor the giver of Torah from between his feet until Shiloh comes, and unto him the gathering of the people would be. And if we look over in Micah chapter 5, verse 2, it teaches us and it tells us, this prophet said that, O Bethlehem, though you be the smallest of the clans of Judah, yet out of you shall come forth he that is to rule my people, Yisrael, whose going forth is of old from everlasting. So these two main prophetic scriptures, and there are others that speak to us regarding Messiah, but these two prophetic scriptures are the direct ones that indicate he is to come from the tribe of Yehuda or Judah. So when we look at this event of Purim marked, first of all, the threat of the Jews being annihilated. But the Most High reversed it. He turned it around, first of all, to preserve the prophetic promise. If the plan of Haman would have come to pass, then there would not have been any Jews or those of the tribe of Yehuda that would bring forth the promised Messiah, Mashiach, the anointed deliverer and king that was to come not only to rule in David's place, but to bring eternal salvation to his people, the house of Israel, and ultimately to the entire world. So this Purim is of great significance. It shows the providence of the Most High. It shows the preservation of the Most High's prophetic word. And it shows the preservation of the people to preserve the promise. So we see in here a mighty, mighty act of the Most High to preserve his prophetic promise to bring the Messiah. But there's some other things we see in here just as well, because this is a Yom Tov. This is a good day. Why is it such a good day? Because what we find is that the Most High is Yahweh that preserves, and he is Yahweh who brings about divine reversals. We see something so powerful that we can take for our own individual lives, that when we have enemies, whatever those enemies might be, whether they might be sickness or disease, whether they might be financial troubles, whether they might be enemies that come from people to bring about our destruction, if we hold to the faith in the promises of the covenant of the Most High that he has given to us, we can rest assured that the Most High, who's working on our behalf, based upon our repentance and our obedience to his word, will bring about a divine reversal for us, just like he did here, contingent on the promises that he had hanging in the balance. He also has promises in the covenant for each and every one of us, that as we live before him and we trust him by faith, he can turn our challenging threats and situations around, whether it might be a financial situation that might be hanging over us, troubling us, putting us in a place that will ultimately cause us to be in dire straits. If you trust in the Most High and begin to declare your situation, that this Purim, this lot that the enemy has cast for our destruction, he might have cast a lot for our destruction, but I want to say to you and I that the Most High will bring a divine reversal on the same day that the enemy will try to bring about our destruction. Make this point, mark it down, my brother and my sister. You who are in covenant with Messiah Yeshua, you need to understand that all of the plots of the enemy, all of the plots of Hasatan, see, when we say Satan, well, we have to understand in the scriptures, it would be literally Hasatan, because it means the enemy, the adversary. When the adversary comes upon you and I for our destruction, we must always look to the Most High, who through Yeshua brings our deliverance, not only for deliverance over our sins, to restore us to fellowship with himself, but he is also a deliverer over our troubling circumstances, our troubling times that the enemy may bring upon us. You need to understand that you can depend on the Most High to bring about a divine reversal in your situation. I want to encourage you, trust in him. And another thing I want to say, because some of you might be saying out there, well, this is a Jewish thing and I'm not Jewish. Well, those of you who are stating that, you obviously don't know the roots of your faith. You who are in the Messiah have been grafted in to the house of Israel. And you who might not understand who you are, whether by blood or by covenant, when you receive Yeshua, you are reaffirmed in the covenant. And let me read something to you, what Mordecai and Esther had determined about the keeping of this festival. Notice what it says, that it's supposed to be kept. I'm going to read verse 27. It says that the Jews established and accepted as a custom for themselves and their descendants and all who join them. See, in Messiah, those who are not blood descendant Israelites are grafted into the house of Israel in the Messiah. So you also should be commemorating Purim. Every believer in the Messiah should be commemorating Purim, because we are marking a time where the Most High worked a divine act of reversal for the preservation of the promise of Messiah coming into the world, but also to mark a model, an example of how he operates and how he will work in our lives. You know, sometimes when we look at the challenges we face, we say, why, oh Yah? Why, Most High? Why, Father, will you allow these things to come upon us? But it is not that he has forsaken us, but it is for him to demonstrate his power, to show himself as the Most High who delivers, our Yahushua, the Most High, our salvation, who will bring us out of every situation if we trust in him and his promises. So I want to leave that with you today. I myself am having challenges. I myself am facing things that are troubling. But because of the promise of the word and the covenant and all of the examples and all of the remembrances that the Most High gives to us, this day, Purim, a Yom Tov, a good day, is a reminder to me that he is still looking out and answering our prayers. Don't give up hope. Don't lose faith. Trust in the promise of the word of the Most High, and he will bring to pass his word. Blessings to each and every one of you. Be blessed. Have a blessed day. It's a good day. Shalom to each and every one of you. Smile, have faith, trust in the Most High, and enjoy this season of divine reversals. And again, happy Purim. Shalom.